Everybody, Member of Parliament Bob Zimmer here today. Former MLA now, Jackie Jacobson. As I've called you the carbon tax warrior. We're here in Yellowknife in front of the local Liberal Member of Parliament's office. Some of you may have seen the vote last week where we brought forward a motion to exempt all forms of home heating from the carbon tax. All Liberal members were forced to vote with Justin Trudeau supporting a carbon tax for different forms of home heating. And I guess, Jackie, you've seen it firsthand, the impacts of the carbon tax, whether it be home heating or the cost of food or fuel. What has the carbon tax done to somebody in Northern and Northwest Territories?
Well, the carbon tax has driven a lot of families into more worry more than anything. The carbon tax as a whole is it's affecting so many families, and the cost of living and the rebates that they're doing, it's not enough to cover the cost of living.
Right.
So it's this NDP Liberal government out of touch, and that never, that their plan for this carbon tax is it's not a good plan, and they should just scrap it.
Right, and some may be saying, especially in the Northwest Territories, hold on a second, the carbon tax program in NWT isn't a federal program. And there's some truth to that. The Legislative Assembly chose, well, if we at least manage it ourselves, we can rebate our citizens. You were forced to do it by Justin Trudeau. At least we can rebate the citizens and mitigate some of those impacts. But what happened last April?
Well, last April, when the bill went through, there's supposed to be a tiered system in the territory. There's no tiered system.
Right.
So that we failed right off the hop. I tried to axe the tax myself in the territory because I know the impacts of what's happening. The trucking companies don't get the trucking, and the food companies are getting blamed for the federal government's wrongs.
Right.
So they're pointing fingers, everybody but themselves. They have to take it on the onus on themselves and just scrap the tax. It's easy. Yeah.
Well, and that's the food cost conversation. We were up in Tuck this summer. And I think many folks don't know or haven't heard that the big reason why food costs have skyrocketed is because of the carbon tax has doubled transportation costs. And the fuel surcharges, in some cases, have doubled that shipping charge. The carbon tax isn't just a threat to Northwest Territories. From a recent article, carbon tax hike a major threat to territorial businesses. Minister Shane Thompson had one message for the federal government, and that was we cannot afford to pay for their promises. Clearly, he and Cabinet have failed to impress, and this is about the Prime Minister and his Liberal members of Parliament, failed to impress upon the Liberals that this will be catastrophic for Northwest Territory businesses as well as everyone's personal cost of living. Quote, there must be something done to exempt the Northwest Territories from the federal carbon tax program. Cabinet must work harder to make the federal government listen to Northerners. Justin Trudeau after 8 years just simply isn't worth the cost. It's time for a common sense conservative government.
Yes.
And it's time to bring it home.
Yes, so, I agree. Drop the tax, axe the tax. Pretty simple.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie.
Thank you for your time.
And any questions?
Sure. Pastors here in the Northwest Territories.
Yeah.
Instead of the carbon tax, what are you proposing to battle climate change?
Right. Well, I think the answer to that is this government's been here for 8 years. And it hasn't made a difference. And I think what you just spoke about, the disasters that you referred to, is an example of they haven't gotten it done. So then the question is what can we do? Rather than just something to just hold up a sign that you're pretending to do something, we need to look at things like forest management and wildfire management. What can be done? Technology, not taxes. We have a huge amount. I'm just at the Geosciences Forum here talking about critical minerals and the critical mineral opportunities that Canada has. We need to get those minerals to the world. It's been said that what's needed just to keep up with the needs of critical minerals, we need to times 6 the amount of mining for these elements around the globe. And here we see a government that we see the mining industry contract and get smaller and smaller in all our territories. We need to get critical minerals to market. You want to have a real impact on the climate, that's how to do it.
So you said to get rid of the carbon tax, and we're also talking about northern communities' economy down there.
Right.
And you think to get rid of the carbon tax, what kind of a benefit will kind of like benefiting the northern communities' economy?
Well, go ahead, Jack.
No, I think with the northern economy of your carbon tax, it's going to drop the price of food. It'll drop the price of the shipping, the shipping of the food, the grocers are going to be able to drop their prices back down again where it should have been in the first place. And I think that if we scrap the carbon tax, axe the tax, it's pretty simple. It's just it'll make life a little bit easier in the northern communities because I live it every day and I see it.
Yeah. And the economic benefit of that is, again, what I just spoke about, the mineral exploration and getting those critical minerals to market. When the world is telling us that needs our elements, and we have a whole bunch here in the Northwest Territories, for one, it's going to be great for the economy. We get our economy moving again. As Jackie knows, things have been slowing down for the last 8 years. It's getting smaller and smaller. Our sector should be expanding. You might have seen that the only rare earth mine and project that was planned has just gone bankrupt. And now they're looking for other sources of sort of funding to keep that operation going. The only rare earth mineral program in Canada, the one that the Prime Minister doing a photo op with, that one operation is shut down under this sort of regulatory regime that Trudeau is in charge of. So there's a lot of things that can be done in a positive way to get things going.
Pushing back a bit on your statement that the carbon tax has led to increasing food prices, there's been some evidence that that's not the case, and there's other factors involved. I guess what's your response?
Who would say that?
Quite a number of people. Yeah.
Do you have somebody specific that you're quoting? Because
I don't have any.
I haven't heard that at all. I mean, we're seeing it. I was up there. I've talked to Mark. He's a grocer in Dawson City. He said he has a 92% transport surcharge just from fuel. And that, if you just go into the local supermarket, you'll see the dramatic increase in prices year over year. So I don't know who you're quoting, but I certainly haven't heard that.
Yeah, cost of living in the north. I mean, you come to the northern communities, shipping's everything. Like, it's worse than 90%. You're averaging about probably almost 150% markup to 400% in regards just to eggs, milk, and all your essentials that you need for living.
Yeah.
So, and I see it every day, and the cost of shipping. And that it's a Liberal and NDP government that's been driving the cost up with carbon taxes. And the reason that being is when you're having to pay that much money in regards just to put food on the table and having to make choices for single mothers, single fathers, and everything that I dealt with over the last 8 years. And I've been a big proponent of axe the tax because we live it in the north.
You do.
So for the Liberal that they decide to have a carbon tax to battle the climate change and to get rid of that, and you just said that we can use some other ways to battle climate change. How do you make sure that the other kind of ways that won't actually affecting like down the same thing to potentially raise the cost of living and
well, I mean, just as the example that I gave was the critical mineral aspect of it, where we could get a lot of these critical minerals that are needed for the electrification, the EVs that people want, and in places like Vancouver where they're practical, and maybe Toronto and others. We have that here. We have that in our northern territories. And that's an economic benefit. We get those mines going. People get employed by working at those mines, as we've seen in Northwest Territory. That starts to happen. We start to see royalties and revenues, and people have jobs and can feed their kids and house their families. So there's an obvious benefit. We just need to stop slowing these kind of things down and really get after it. Again, if the world's saying we need to multiply times 6 the amount of critical mineral mining to keep up to the demand of green projects, then I suggest get it from Canada. We're ready.
Good. And you've seen the Conservative Party hold axe the tax rallies across Canada, including in Yukon.
Yeah.
Can we expect the party leader to come to Northwest Territory?
Well, that's what my hope is. Pierre's a very busy guy. He has a very strong compassion for the North. We did get him up to Yukon. So I'll just say stay tuned on that. We're working hard to make that happen.
And question for you, Mr. Jacobson.
Yeah.
Now that you're no longer an MLA, how do you plan to continue advocating for this?
Well, I'm just going to go home and get into local community government and right now and work with my new MLA to keep focusing on axe the tax and try to fight the good fight. But now for myself, I'll be home and seeing it, like seeing it every day and trying to work around it and work with my community leadership to make sure that I'm an advocate for the people in regards to axe attacks, and I won't stop.
And I'll speak for Jackie. He's been to Ottawa advocating for Northwest Territories already and for his community, Tuktoyaktuk. And I look forward to seeing more of Jackie in Ottawa, and keep up the good work. It's been a great relationship, and it's great to hear people that actually live in their communities and listen to the people about what their challenges, and then also what are some solutions to those problems. So great to have you here today, Jackie.
Yeah, thank you.
Sorry, can I take a photo?
Sure.